Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Society for Conservation Biology 2022 members meeting. My name is Tony Lynham, and I'm very pleased to be welcoming you to our meeting today. And I hope that you are doing really well wherever you are in the world. And I believe that we have online around 50 members. I'm looking and we've got 51 participants. So fantastic turnout for our meeting today. And just like to first start by thanking everyone who has made it possible for this meeting to take place. And in the background, the people who've been doing a lot of hard work to ensure that we are online with you today are our global services staff. And I'd like to thank them all because they've all done a sterling amount of work. Yesterday, we had our Global Board of Governors meeting, and that was another big meeting for us. And that was also made possible by our great team of staff, our global staff. So if I could just mention their names, if we could go back to that slide. Our Managing Director, Warren Sander, our Director of Communications, Nate Spillman, Membership Manager, Danielle Carter, Marketing and Communications Manager, Lee Munger, and Shonda Foster, who is our David Smith Conservation Research Fellowship Program Director, Finance Manager, Miriam Hernandez, our Editor-in-Chief of Conservation Biology, Mark Bergman, Senior Editor for Conservation Biology, Ellen Main, and Managing Editor of Conservation Biology, Frith Jarrett, and our David H. Smith Conservation Research Fellowship Executive Director, a new staff person, Nicole Crane. So thank you so much, all of you, for the work that you've done this year to help the society function and operate. And let's move on to our next slide, because I want to also mention the great team of governors that we have around the world who make our society function, and to meet every couple of months to discuss the strategic direction and how SCB functions as a society. So we've got a past president, Adina Marylander, our president-elect, Vanessa Adams, our treasurer, Jennifer Thornhills, our secretary, Justine Vaz, our DEI officer, Tsitsi McPherson, and our regional section presidents of Africa, Israel Borakini, Asia section, Mohammed Fahadinia, Europe section, John Piccolo, our Latin America section president, Tsitsi McPherson, our Global Marine Program President, Ed Hind Ozan, North America Section Director President, Rebecca McCaffrey, our Oceania Section President, Meecha Jackson, Vice President of Education and Outreach, Ed Gallo, and Vice President for Membership, Erin Poor, and last but not least, our Vice President for Programs and Nominees, Melissa Price. Thank you all, governors, for the work that you do. And we also want to thank our partner, NRhythm, and the team of NRhythm, Jeff Sue, Ryan Williams, and Tonya Price, who have been working with us on the restructure and redesign of SCB. And we've been working with them very, very closely over the last 2 years. I want to acknowledge them as our partner. Great, so onto the agenda for today. We have a number of interesting and topical things to discuss, which we'll get into in just a few moments. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to approve the minutes from the last members meeting. Then we're going to go on to a conferences update, and I'm going to hand over to Vanessa Adams, who's going to present that. And then I'm going to give the Vision 2026 presentation, and we're going to have an update from Ed Hind on the Programs Council Vision 2026. Then we're going to have some questions and answers, and we're going to go on to our financial reports, reports from the publications committee, chapters update, and then other business, and then we'll close. Great. So yeah, please go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat, and please connect with us via the chat if you have any questions, or if you'd like to make contact with other members that you see online, do use the chat box. And we have 77 participants in our meeting already. It's fantastic turnout. So great. Let's go on to the minutes. Great. Justine?
Okay, so I've checked, we've gone through the minutes quite closely. These minutes are a true reflection of the meeting. I'll just go, it was a broad overview of all of the society's actions with presentations from the sections and a good lively Q&A at the end. So I would like to propose the minutes to be accepted.
I propose the minutes be accepted.
Okay, Sitsi will propose the minutes accepted. Thanks, Sitsi. And seconded by, or?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Jen. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thanks. Thank you, Justine. Vanessa, I'll just hand it over to you.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like me to share my screen? Are you prepared to
I'll
share?
share if that's
Okay,
easy.
perfect. Yep. Okay. Go ahead.
A momento. There we go. All right. Welcome all. Thanks for joining us today. I get the fun stuff of reporting on all the great conferences we've been running. I, as president-elect, chair the conference committee, which is staffed by regional members and many of our programmatic members. So this year's been quite busy. We have run 4 conferences around the world. July hosted the North America Congress with nearly 600 attendees. That was in Reno. In August, Europe hosted in Prague with about 700 attendees, both online and in person. In September, LACA joined forces with the Mesoamerica Society for Biology and Conservation and hosted a really innovative meeting with virtual streams as well as some campus locations to get people engaged. And we've just come off of our Australian event, which was co-hosted with the Ecological Society of Australia in Wollongong with about 700 attendees in person and online. So in total, we reached more than 2,000 members or scientists around the world, which was really great. And all of those included virtual components so that those who attended those events can still access that content and were able to really engage regardless of their ability to travel. So really successful year in terms of re-engaging our membership in person and online for hosting events. I'm hoping that everyone already knows this, but I'm also really pleased to be able to have the opportunity to spruik that 2023, we do get to finally go to Kigali, Rwanda. So many of you will recall that we were meant to be there when COVID hit. And so we postponed our move to be in person in Africa. And we're really excited to be able to engage the African membership and scientists and practitioners in that region in an in-person event next year. And we really welcome everyone to consider traveling to Kigali. Absolutely amazing opportunities to visit some pretty cool places, see the great apes, do some wonderful ecotourism, and engage with your fellow colleagues in scientific conversations. So that is planned for the 23rd to the 27th of July next year. We have an open call for proposals for symposia, roundtable discussions, workshops, and training courses. So I know we're all beginning to think about Christmas, but that call for proposals remains open until the 19th of January, so still plenty of time to get those ready. And then we will open up our calls for abstracts for contributed talks and presentations and posters shortly and leave those open through March. So also still plenty of time. So think about putting July 2023 in your diaries to join us in Kigali. and start considering what you might put forward in terms of proposals or presentations. Oh, geez, sorry. That was a bit of a whirlwind. And I'm also really excited to say that for those of you who know that we rotate our conferences regionally to ensure that we're fully engaging our global membership, you'll probably be aware that 2025 has been penciled in for Oceania, but we are fully underway in scoping that. It will be heading down under. SCB Oceania has been leading our bidding process with the Global Conference Committee. So we will be formally announcing where we head next year. And we're pretty excited to have worked up those bids and to be able to announce to you in a formal way next year where we're going. It's going to be pretty exciting. I think that's it. Any questions on those events? You know, or I believe that Nate will be able to speak more to Kigali as well. I trust I will see all of you in Kigali then.
Tony, I think
Tony,
you're on mute. Yep.
Yeah, something is a bit funny on your sound, Tony.
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Yes.
Great. All right. So I was just going to say that Kigali is going to be a great opportunity for all our members around the world, but especially our members in Africa, to join and to participate in person. And we're looking forward to seeing you all there. So thanks, Vanessa, for that presentation. And now I'm going to go on to give you my presentation about Vision 2026. And I wanted to tell you a story about how our society is changing. And this story dates back quite a few years now. We started as a society in 1985, and our society became an organization as a result of the emergence of a new field of science called conservation biology. And I remember when that happened. And I want to tell you a little personal story about this because it really impacted me and created an opportunity for my career. Our history is that we began as the society responding to a crisis, the global crisis of biodiversity. And our mission began to advance the science and practice of conserving the Earth's biological diversity. So we started as this organization that was doing conservation biology, and it began as a society that was focused on addressing issues of small populations, extinction of species in small populations, and we built a science from that foundation. And some of you may remember a book called Conservation Biology, which was edited by Michael Soleil. At the time that was published, I was a student. I was a zoology student in Australia, and that book had a profound impact on my outlook on the world as well as my career. And I became a member of the society in about 1989, just as I was making plans for graduate school. And I took my membership really seriously. And as a result of becoming a member in 1989 and 1990, I decided to do a study of the loss of species diversity on these islands in Thailand. And you can see my background. This is my field site in southern Thailand in a park called Khao Sok. So this book, which I read by Michael Soleil and colleagues, one of them was my one of my major advisors, Michael Gilpin. It's really had a big impact on me. and shaped the way I think about the world and shaped the way I developed my science, and essentially led to me choosing to have a career in conservation. So, you know, that was many years ago, and you know, in the future, looking to where we are right now as a society, we've changed a lot in those 35 years since the society was founded. But we need to continue to change in order to stay relevant, because of all the things that are changing in our world. We have all kinds of things happening that are affecting us as people and as scientists. We have climate change, we have biodiversity loss, we have the issue of decolonizing conservation, we have the issue of racial and social equity, and the relevance of science. And so we're going to need to change and adapt as a society and as individuals and as scientists to be able to meet these challenges. So let me start by saying that our society is a truly global society. If you look around the world at where we are, we're in all the continents, we're in all the regions of the world. We have around 4,000 members currently, and we have people working in local chapters. We have around 40 chapters. These are groups of members that are rallied around SCB and the cause of conserving the Earth's biodiversity. And you know, here's me in my office in Thailand with the first edition of that journal, Conservation Biology. And this was a really huge thing for me to open up the mail and find this copy of this journal, Conservation Biology. I was so excited, and it really changed the way I felt about the world. I collected all of the copies of Conservation Biology ever since, and I've got them in my office there, all the printed ones anyway. So we have members around the world, and we need to support them, and we need to acknowledge the diversity of our membership across cultures, across religions, across races, and across disciplines as well. Because conservation biology has evolved as a multidisciplinary science. We're not just biology. We are social science, we are conservation finance, we're conservation genetics, we are psychology, we are business, we are many different things. There's many different disciplines and subdisciplines of conservation science. We have to recognize that diversity. So we need to recognize that we want to be representative of all of our conservation science and the people doing conservation science around the world. And we came to a realization a couple of years ago that we were not doing that. Our society was too top-down, too centralized, and we needed to recognize that we've got lots of things happening around the world that need to be recognized and empowered. We also needed to create a business model to support the work that is done by our members around the world. And we needed to also put in dedicated resources to support that work and to support our equity and inclusion and diversity and justice. So we decided that our governance model needed to address historical inequities. We needed to empower our members working in sections and working groups and chapters around the world. We needed to align formal and informal power and reduce bureaucracy. It's a really important one. And we also needed to represent disciplines within conservation science that are underrepresented. So in 2021, we embarked on a journey to make a transition to a new society, a new way of doing business. And last year, we made a lot of progress in creating a vision and agreeing that our vision for the next 5 years would be what we call this thing called Vision 2026, which I'm going to talk about to you today. And at the end of the year, we had a plan that was agreed by the board and our members to move forward with this vision. So this year, rubber hit the road. And tell you what, we did a lot of work to move our transition ahead. And here are the milestones. I'm not going to read them out because there's just so many things that we did. But we started by building teams, creating teams to address all the different aspects of the transition that needed to be looked at. So we designed a membership team, a team to look at how we can improve our membership structure and create a new membership model. We also set up groups across our regional sections, design teams that work together to build work plans and build a strategy for the future. And over the year, we also had a transition implementation group, which is the group that guides the whole process of the transition. And that group has worked very, very hard. I really want to thank the transition implementation group. They've met every 2 weeks. So that's like 100 meetings. Sorry, that's like 26 meetings. And in between those meetings, there's been other meetings. There's been coordination meetings, and there's been board meetings, and there's been regional section meetings. So there's been a lot of meeting, a lot of talking, and a lot of work that's been done by the transition implementation group, regional sections, and their design teams, and also by the board. To the point where right now, we're at the far right-hand side of the slide here. So the board has approved changes to the bylaws. We have a set of draft bylaws now that has been handed over to our attorney to review and to formalize. And just yesterday at our board meeting, we reviewed these changes that have come back from the attorney. We're very, very excited to be telling you that in January, February, we are going to be ready to share the bylaws with the membership, and we're going to ask you to vote on those bylaws. This is the new set of bylaws that is going to map the future of our society. Very important process. So we also had a number of other things happen during the year, which you can see here. But essentially, the big steps were to approve the bylaws and to set in place plans and structures for how sections and also our new councils are going to move towards our Vision 2026. So in this presentation, in this meeting today, we're going to hear about the plans for Vision 2026, and we're also going to hear from our Programs Council about how Vision 2026 is going to look for the Programs Council. Now, what are these councils? I'm going to show you what the structure of our society is going to look like in the next few slides. But first, let me tell you that Vision 2026, what does it mean? It means that all of our regional sections are going to be managing and supporting their own local members and the needs of their chapters and the activities of those groups. There's going to be resources made available for each of the sections to hire a full-time staff member, at least one, to support all this work. And this is something that we recognize as really important. Regional sections, they're all volunteers, and everyone is time poor. We all have so much to do. We need staff to help to manage our activities. So that's going to happen. Working groups and global programs and task forces are going to be forming what we call the Programs Council. And the Programs Council is going to chart the direction and the direction of SCB, and they're going to have decision-making power at the global board level and dedicated funding. So we're going to hear today about the Programs Council from Ed Hins-Oran, and he's going to tell us how it's going to work. So equity, inclusion, and diversity and justice is going to be operationalized into the way we make decisions, and there's going to be a committee, dedicated committee that has funding to operationalize JEID or DEIJ. There's going to be pathways for members to access leadership roles, whether they be leadership roles in chapters or leadership roles in sections, or leadership roles on the councils or on the global network board, which I'm going to tell you about in a moment. And so people can become leaders within our society, and there are pathways that will be created for people to become leaders that will be easily accessible by anybody, regardless of where you are in the world. Now, something quite exciting is that as part of the Vision 2026, we plan to have increased our membership, and our target our vision is to have 10,000 members. And those members will include practitioners, scientists, implementers, policymakers. We want to diversify our membership around the world. And our members are going to have SCB as their home and for their careers. And we're going to develop new services and programming to support the global membership, in addition to the things that we do really well already, which is, like Vanessa mentioned, holding conferences and publishing journals, as I've mentioned before to you. We're going to increase the services. We're going to have trainings and workshops. We're going to have services that make SCB more relevant to the job of conservation and conservation science. And we hope that we'll be able to attract more members and different kinds of members to SCB, and especially people in the practitioner world. So we also are going to plan that global services, our global services team is going to support our sections and facilitate the global network function. So we're going to have a global collaborative network, and the global services team is going to be versed with the task of managing the health of that network and to manage systems that can support the network. So today I'm going to review the progress towards implementing our new global governance structure and the business model. And let me start by showing you the network structure that has been agreed upon. And this has come about as a result of around almost 2 years of work by the board and by the sections and by our work with NRhythm. So what you're seeing here is the new structure of SCB. It's pretty exciting. And we're going to have, as I mentioned, a lot of the work charting the direction of the society is going to be done by the Programs Council and the Regional Council, which is made up of the leaders of sections and chapters. We're going to have global services supporting the two councils, and a global network board, which manages the legal affairs and the financial affairs of the society, but a lean and mean global network board with a few officers and representation from the councils. We have established an interim governance committee, which is currently chaired by Professor Richard Kingsford. I just want to thank Richard and the interim governance committee for all the work that they've done this year already to help review our bylaws and review our structures and review our plan for this transition. And without them, none of what I'm talking about today would have been possible. And we have set up a committee to manage diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that committee is going to have engagement across the network, across the global board, but also through the councils and all the way down through the sections and chapters. We want to operationalize DEI and ensure that it's maintained. So this is the four groups, the four key parts of the network: the Global Network Board, Programs Council, the Regional Council, the Global Services Team. And we are operationalizing the structure right now. And in 2023, you are going to see this is the structure that we move into, and we are now managing the transition into how our current structure will look like this one. So how can SCB stay relevant and have impact? And of course, we want our society to be relevant to conservation practitioners and scientists and everyone who's doing conservation across all of the disciplines. And we want to have impact. So how can we do that? And how can we have 10,000 members by 2026? Well, we need to recognize our role as a global collaborative network. And building this new business model will help support our members and facilitate sharing of knowledge. We want to improve equity and inclusion in conservation and practice and science, and we want to have more members who are women and minorities and other groups, and we want to represent them in our society. We want to establish pathways for members to have a voice and be more involved in decision making. And we want to, as I mentioned before, we want to recognize that conservation science has evolved into this multidisciplinary science. So we want to recognize all of the disciplines so that we can facilitate having better and more effective conservation done by our members and around the world. So we want to make SCB a more welcoming place as a professional home. And we want people to stay members for 30 years. And that includes all of you and all of the people who you are going to recruit to be members, because we want you to also help in recruiting members and new members and bringing people into our society and making it bigger and better. And we also want to collaborate with new organizations that share our mission and vision. And just to let you know that at our board meeting yesterday, the board approved of an agreement to establish a working relationship with the Conservation Measures Partnership and CCNet. So we're going to enter into a relationship with CMP and CCNet, where members will have access to trainings and to workshops and to the open standards. And we're going to be involved in the open standards of conservation as a society. So that's super exciting. And we've just agreed to doing that yesterday. So that's something I wanted to let you know about. Whoops, looks like I muted myself. Working towards a shared vision. So a couple of last slides that I want to leave you with, but really important slides, because we need your help as members. We want to enact this Vision 2026, and we need your support to do that. And we need to approve the changes that are in place. And one of the things that is going to come on your radar in January or February is the new bylaws. The new bylaws are designed to enhance the diversity of voices that lead SCB and contribute to SCB, and enable our society to move from this model that we had before, top-down structure, to a global collaborative network. The new bylaws will help to change the way our power was concentrated and distributed across the network. And it's going to help to empower the newly created Programs Council and to represent the programmatic vision of our society. And our bylaws are also going to help to strengthen the voice and the representation of all of our groups. So these bylaws are just super important. We want your help to read and consider and finally approve the bylaws that will be presented to you next year. So we're going to realign SCB's focus to allow for conservation work to be emphasized at the regional and local level. And we're going to improve the way we elect leadership through the creation of a more nodal leadership structure. And we're going to introduce global programs, such as the Marine Global Program, to represent globally thematic programs and issues that transcend geography and empower those programs by having them represented on the Global Network Board and within the Program Council leadership. So all of these things will be possible once we have the new bylaws enacted. So we need your help to get those bylaws approved and in place. And once we have the bylaws in place, our global network structure, our global collaborative network, and all of the things that I'm talking about today will be enacted and implemented. Great. So the next steps in January, we're going to send out to all members and ask you to review and comment on the proposed changes to our bylaws. And then in February, we're going to hold a vote to approve the changes to the Society's bylaws. So super important things happening in January and February. I know this is the time when many people go away and have their vacations, but please do pay attention to your email box, because we need your support to review these bylaws and to vote them and approve them. Great. So I hope that I haven't taken up too much time, but wanted to share our vision for how the Society will be changing. And so I hope that this has been useful. And if you have any questions, we'll probably hang on to those questions until we've gone to the next presentation. So I'm going to hand over to Nate, who's going to reshare the slides for our next presentation.
All right. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate that. Yep, there will be a chance for questions as soon as Ed finishes his talk on the Program Council. Ed, are you able to share your screen, or would you like me to?
I'm going to give it a go, Nate.
Okay,
if it doesn't
great.
go well, let me know.
All right.
So, can you see that now? No.
Not yet.
Give me 1 second. Sorry. I push on two. I think that's working now, yeah?
It's working, Ed. Thank you very much. And if you don't mind, can you just introduce yourself real quick? And thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Ed Hindozan, and I'm currently president of the SCB Marine. And I've been working on the program, the group designing the Program Council for the last, I guess, slightly more than half a year, but I'll come on to that as we go on. So thanks very much, Tony, for introducing the kind of introducing the Program Council there and how it's come about, and obviously the SCB restructure, which we're all very excited about. So just, Tony's already shown this slide, but this is kind of, I will sort of show it one more time just to kind of show where the Program Council is going to fit in, and just to see how it interacts with all the other groups on the new SCB global network structure. Sorry. So the Program Council, I guess it's, opposite the Regional Council with a very similar function, I guess, but obviously with different membership. And the idea is that the Program Council, as you can see in the right-hand arrow there, will send 3 members to the Global Network Board in the same way that the Regional Council will do. I can't see your questions as I go on, so if anyone wants to ask anything as we go through, please do just shout out, because I can't see any hands, so apologies for that. So what is the SCB Program Council? Obviously, this is brand new, and there was a lot to be decided, and I really want to emphasize before we talk about this, like, it's not provisional, but as we have designed the Program Council as a design committee in a way that we know there is still time to shape it as we move forward. But the idea is that the Program Council will develop and drive the thematic direction of the Society. So global programs will be, they are things which are beyond geography. They are globally relevant, and they are thematic. And the idea is that the Program Council will be a collective voice and administrative body for its member groups. And the idea is, to give those groups which are thematic within SCB more of a voice than they have had to date. So the Program Council is comprised of leaders of official and provisional SCB working groups, for instance. Also global programs as they come online. The SCB Marine is still a section, but we are about to go to our members to become the first global program. So it's very good to be speaking to you today from the SCB Marine section, and there's other groups which are looking towards this programmatic direction as we go forward. But it also includes committees and task forces where relevant. And as I said already, it will hold 3 seats on the Global Network Board in the same way that the Regional Council with. And those seats will be to represent the interests of SCB programs. And so I think the really important thing to say is, like, I'm talking about the SCB Program Council, but it doesn't actually exist yet. So to date, we have operated as what's called the Program Council Design Team, and the job of this provisional group has been to work out what the Program Council will look like and how it will be constituted, and to start to talk about the things that the Program Council will do. But it's really important to emphasize that everything is really still on the table. It's only once the Program Council is actually constituted, I guess after the bylaws go through, change in bylaws hopefully goes through, the Program Council will start to operate and really decide actually what it does on a day-to-day, year-to-year and longer-term basis. Apologies, my voice is going. I've had a little bit of a cold this week, but hopefully it will last for the rest of the presentation. And so the design team, which I've been operating on with a number of really excellent colleagues, giving over a lot of their time, what we've done is develop a governance structure and an initial leadership structure to ensure that the Program Council is, first developed and then actually established on a long-term basis within the Society for Conservation Biology. So just to give you an idea of who's been involved within the Program Design Council, looking towards what the Program Council will look like in the future, all working groups have been invited, all SCB task forces, and what we hope will be the global programs. As I say, SCB Marine is still currently a section, but the idea is it will transition towards a program, and we're going to our members about that this month. We've bolded some organizations here, as all of these groups have been invited, but unfortunately some people haven't had the capacity to take part, but all the groups there in bold have actually taken a very active role in the design of the Program Council. And so let's go into a bit more detail about what the Program Council is and what the Program Council will do. And it's really to give groups which have, some of which have already been very active within SCB and some of which have a growing influence in the SCB. It's to give them, I don't want to use the word parity, but it's to give them more of a voice in what SCB does. It's to give them more of a voice in the future of SCB. And it's the idea is to create the same support system for thematic issues within SCB as is already currently there for regions. So we can collectively organize and share resources so that thematic issues can take a more prominent role within SCB and become more established. So hopefully that groups working on thematic issues can do more and have more impact. And so the idea is to increase the representation and influence of SCB groups within the society's leadership structures. And just to re-emphasize what I said at the beginning, these groups will transcend geography. It's for thematic issues which transcend geography. So hopefully we will empower those issues within SCB on the Global Network Board alongside kind of regional issues. And the idea is, the Design Council has been very collaborative, and the idea is that programs will collaborate going forward. This is not a load of individual programs just turning up to the Global Network Board. This is programs collaborating to make sure that thematic issues are central within the future of SCB and in the near future. So I'll just talk a little bit about how we've gone about this process, because I'm sure you want to know a bit about that, but I won't go into too much detail because there's been a lot of meetings, and I don't want to bore you with too many details. But I just want to emphasize that it's been a really, all groups have taken part, all groups have had a say where they've had the capacity to turn up. We've met bi-weekly, I think since about March last year, so this year, so about 9 months. Done a lot of work to develop governance structure for the council, which we hope will appear, obviously pending some decisions in Q1 2023. And as we've already mentioned, there's been representatives from working groups, task forces. The DEI committee has been strongly involved, which is obviously really important. That's, you know, it's a central thing that within the society going forward, and it's important that the program council has considered DEI from the beginning, and I think we're very happy that that's been the case. We've had some really good representations from the DEI reps, obviously working within SCB already. And I guess how do we go about it? Well, originally we were really grateful from the guidance we had with NRhythm, who Tony's already thanked, but yeah, really brilliant in setting up telling us how to have a design council. It's not something we come across before. And after a couple of months of mentorship from NRhythm, we decided to go alone. Hopefully knowing what to do, and we've been meeting fortnightly where possible for most of the last year, deciding how to put a program council together for the very first time. At times that was difficult, but as we got into it, it's become a lot more fluid. It's been really good to bounce ideas off each other between different working groups, different sections, different task forces, and it's a real diversity of thoughts has really come together, and I think we're really happy with where we are at this stage. We first established a working process design team. That was really important. That was where NRhythm's guidance was really important. But then, we went ahead and drafted a draft terms of reference for the council, which we're happy to share at a later date. I won't go through all of that now. Then we've really important, obviously, was to determine who would be represented on the program council, and actually who from the program council would then go on to represent the program council on the global network board within the new SCB structure. And then also determine, how do we decide who those people who represent the groups are going forward? So we've determined how the groups will send representatives to serve on the program council going forward. And we've also looked at how the program council will be represented within other groups within SCB, and I'll come on to that in a minute. But I just keep emphasizing this point. The intention has really been to create a structure that is adaptable. We realize we are doing something for the first time. We put a lot of effort into this, a lot of work. Every meeting we've talked about, we're not entirely sure whether this will work. We think these are good ideas, but we will only know once this new council is operational. So we've hopefully designed it in a way that makes it really adaptable. So as we go on through the next few years, especially, the delivery of the program council will be a very iterative process. And, we do expect it to evolve. We absolutely think we've got some things wrong. We don't know what they are yet, but we very much look forward to working with the new members of the program council, as well as the members of global programs, working groups and task forces, to refine the program council so that it's really operating to put thematic issues to the forefront of what SCB does. And so just coming to the end now, just to talk a little bit about how the program council, the program council is not a body on its own. It's been very much designed to integrate with the global network structure, which is proposed as part of the SCB redesign. So, we've looked at how the program council hopefully will interact with cross-functional committees. So the idea is that the program council will provide expertise to these committees and make sure they're represented on them. But obviously these are committees which are shared with the regional council as well as the other SCB groups. Just because the program council sits opposite the regional council in the kind of organogram there, it does not mean it's an island. The thematic issues are important within regions, and regions are important within thematic issues. And actually one thing we've discussed already, which is not on the organogram there, is having potentially thematic chapters down the line. I think that'd be really exciting. But the idea is that a regional council will, I can't say it will continue to work closely with the regional council, because obviously the program council has not existed to date, but we hope we will have a really strong working relationship from day one. And we've designed it with that purpose. Obviously, there'll be the Global Network Board, and three members from the Program Council will be sitting on the Global Network Board. But this is actually an area really important. Like originally, we talked about having rotating membership so that different groups on the Program Council would be represented on the Global Network Board. But actually, we decided we really didn't want individual groups representing, I guess, themselves on the Global Network Board. We wanted 3 members, 3 seats on the Global Network Board, representing all programs. So there'll be 3 they will be elected as members of the program council rather than the individual groups that they represent. Happy to answer any questions on that as we go forward. Really excited to take advantage of the relationship with the Global Services Committee. There will be, dedicated full-time, dedicated resources provided to the program council to help the programs grow, to help the programs develop. So it's really, on many issues with, lots of support there from people like Nate and Warren and the many other good people within SCB. And then, as I said, we've already had meetings with the SCB's DEI representatives, and to make sure that, we're networking with the DEI groups from day one, so that, programs develop in the same way that, regional groups already have developed. And so just finally, to finish with the kind of leadership structure, that there is not a closed shop. Any working group, any task force, any global program that exists and is established will be represented on the program council, by one member from that group. And obviously that group, we're not saying it has to be the president of that group or any other member within that group. Those groups will decide who they send to the program council, and all of the SCB working groups, task forces, and global programs will be voting members of the inaugural program council. There will be additional members as well. These are non-voting members, and this status will be given to provisional working groups before they reach hopefully reach the status of actual working group, but also potentially special invited guests where relevant, to help support the delivery within the program council. We also have these members of cross-functional committees hopefully turning up to program council to observe and also to help us with our work. So that's the non-voting members. And then to talk okay, so how will the program council then be represented on the global network board? The program council will have officers, so you can see that it'll be 3 officer positions. We talked a lot about this. This was probably the thing we talked about the most. But there'll be a chair, a global program representative, and a treasurer. And the officers will be voted by the members of the council. And I think we've discussed that would be 1 vote per member of the council, so that no one group, for instance, can dominate the program council. That's really important to us. And those program council representatives will be our representatives on the global network board for the term that they serve. So last slide is just next steps. Obviously, this is all provisional because there's obviously decisions to be taken by yourselves, the members, and the leadership of SCB. But the hope is to finalise the program council terms of reference by early next year, Q1. And then actually to sunset the program council design team. I very much enjoy being part of this team, but I will really enjoy having a 1 hour back at 11 p.m. Every fortnight, even though it's been a lot of fun working with my colleagues. But we've done a lot of work, and now it's time to actually hand it over to the new program council members. Its design is over, and it's time to deliver. We hope to launch the program council once as I said, once you guys have hopefully approved this, and then we're not going to appoint all our representatives at once. It's going to be slightly staggered, but we hope to have our representatives, elected and appointed, as you can see, that sort of February, April, June. And then we'll keep this iterative. We will keep reviewing the program council to see if it's working properly. We will evaluate the activities of the program council to see if they're in the best interest, of all the members and all the groups represented of the council. The last thing to say is get involved. Like, the reason we are creating the Global Program Council is to give themes and programs a bigger role within SCB. And the reason we want to do that is because we want more people involved. We want more people pushing thematic issues within conservation biology. So if you're not already a member of a program, or obviously a working group or a task force, please do get involved. You can go to the Society for Conservation Biology website to www.conbio.org to read more about the programs, working groups and task forces which already exist. And you may notice that the theme that you are interested in is missing. There is always the opportunity to start a new working group as a provisional working group, which will hopefully one day become an established working group, and then hopefully a global program. So thanks very much. I will stop sharing my screen, and if there's time for any questions, I'm very happy to take them, but hopefully that was all clear.
Thanks, Ed. That was fantastic. Appreciate it. We're going to move into a Q&A session now. If there are questions that are available, I think Tony will moderate it. So we'll transition into the Q&A. Tony, are you there? If not, I think we can do our best to answer the questions. Looks like we have one question coming in now from Rachel Golden-Kroner. And this question is, how will SCB evaluate the changes to the structure and adapt as needed? I can take a stab at that, but Tony's back. Tony, we're in our Q&A session right now, and we have one question that came in from Rachel Golden-Kroner. I'm not sure if you had a chance to read it, but I'll read it to you. How will SCB evaluate the changes to the structure and adapt as needed?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Thanks for that. So the way this is going to work is that we are going to evaluate the structure, and we're going to evaluate the way that the Programs Council and the Regional Council are functioning by conducting periodic surveys of the members of those groups and also our membership. And we are also going to promote membership in the different councils. As Ed has pointed out, we want you to get involved. We want people to join working groups if you're not already in a working group. We'd like you to also consider joining a chapter if you're not a member of a chapter. And we have about 40 chapters around the world. Some of them are really active, others less so. So we want people to embrace the structure, the new structure, and test it out and see how it works for you as a member and your colleagues as well. So we will evaluate how things are working through surveys and through periodic reviews and through our board meetings. So that is the plan. And yeah, so that's a great question. And yeah, we just want members to be involved and to feel a part of the structure and to make it work for the way you engage with the society. It's quite a bit different from how things were done before. So we know that it's probably going to take a little bit of time for members to get used to. But we think it's going to be a great improvement in how we engage our members and conservation scientists and practitioners around the world. Yeah.
Okay, and we have another question. Tony, how are we planning to include and reach out to our local conservation groups? What are our ideas of collaboration and participation for non-scientific NGOs, e.g.
Sure.
community-based citizen science groups?
Sure, great question. So yeah, I'm just a personal viewpoint on that, having met SCB members in different places over the last year or so, actively looking out for our chapters in PNG, in New Zealand, in Malaysia, in Thailand. I know that our communities, there are communities out there that are doing amazing conservation work, and they have a role to play in SCB. And through our chapters, we can engage with those communities on the ground. So if, for example, the New Zealand chapter, the Victoria University of Wellington chapter, engages with the community in doing beach cleanups and doing various different community focused activities that engage local people. So that kind of thing is something that chapters can do. Chapters don't have to be just scientists or just students. They can be engaging the local communities in their neighborhoods.
Okay. Next question, Tony, is from the Malaysia chapter. One of the aims of Vision 2026 is to reduce bureaucracy. How does the new structure contribute to that? It seems like more working groups equals more steps to decision making.
Great. So maybe I'll pass over to Ed to answer that question, if that's okay.
Sorry, Nate, can you just repeat that again? I was just looking at the chat myself and wasn't
Sure.
100% listening.
Yep. One aim of 2026 is to reduce bureaucracy. How does the new structure contribute to that? It seems like more working groups equals more steps to decision making.
Hey, Nate, I could take a stab at that if you want, Ed.
Yeah, you could go for it, Adina, and I can come in afterwards. That's fine. Yeah.
Sure. Adina here, past president. I've been with the process for a while, so I'll just take a little stab at that. I think that shared leadership will slow things down. So I think one of the comments in the chat was, things might take longer to decide, but I think that the decisions will be more robust. So what I saw in the past was sometimes the society would be quick to decide because few people were in the decision room, but then they would have to swing back to some other direction. And there was a lot of going one way and then sort of about face as soon as a new board would come on. So I think this idea of having more input with more folks that better represent the multiple interests of the global society will make things, yes, maybe a little slower, but hopefully more durable and able to achieve longer range visions and bigger impact, because we won't be sort of one board for 2 years taking us in one direction and then switching direction again. I think that things will be vetted better, more thoughtful, and hopefully more durable. I don't know if other board members have something to say about that. And also, I just want to say that bureaucracy-wise, I think the global services team has just been wonderful, and they've never been leaner than they are now. So we really have to hand it to them for doing so much work with so few people. And they have been very efficient. And that's impressive too. And I think part of that has to maybe do with workplace health that we've really been working on all together between the board and the staff to have a healthier workplace for everyone, for all the volunteers and for the staff. And with a healthier workplace, I think things are actually more streamlined and get less bogged down. The better connection between the board and the staff, everybody being on the same page really helps with that. And I think the society's actually been incredibly, especially global services, efficient, especially working on this transition with our partners and with them.
Thanks, Adina. Ed, do you want to comment on the just the program council and what we've talked about with respect to working groups and bureaucracy and how that affects this?
Yeah, I guess I don't think adding more group, I think it's logical. I think that adding more groups makes it sound more bureaucratic, but I actually think the purpose of a thematic groups, programs, or working groups is very different to the purpose of sections. So the idea is not to add bureaucracy, it's to add more opportunities for people to get involved. Some people want to get involved in SCB on programmatic, thematic issues, and many of the members of the, what's currently the marine section, and hopefully will become the marine program, get involved in SCB because they're interested in the marine environment. And no, not degrading any of the regional sections, but then they don't join to have a regional affiliation. They join because of an interest in the oceans and seas and coastal environments. And some people join because they want a regional community, and that they want to get involved in within their continent or their geographical area or their local chapters. So I think the idea of this restructure is partially to allow members to choose what SCB is to them. And if they want to get involved in regions, regional groups and thematic groups, they can, but there is no obligation. So you can absolutely opt out of the bureaucracy if you want. And the way the structure is being designed is that the regional council and the program council will share resources. So we're not doubling up on everything. Where it doesn't make sense to have separate structures, we will share things. So for instance, every group is absolutely welcome to have its own DEI officer, but we will start to we will share DEI resources. We will share the policy committee and the publishing committee and the conferences committee. So I don't think we're adding bureaucracy for members. probably adding bureaucracy for for Nate and Warren and all of those working in DC to organize. But yeah, I'm sure they embrace that, and you know, and you know, and I'm sure they'll be just as valuable supporting more groups as they were just supporting the ones they did before. But I think this is to help expand the SCB membership and expand the options that people have within SCB, not to add bureaucracy. And as I noted towards hopefully the end of my presentation, you know, we very much hope this to be iterative. If it becomes clear, and you know, this is why evaluation is important. If it becomes clear that it is becoming more bureaucratic, we have an option to change that. You know, we have an option to review our structure and to improve things. But yeah, I hopefully, you know, the bureaucracy is opt-in, and actually for most people there'll be less bureaucracy.
Okay, thanks, Ed. We have one more question right now and then a comment. Tony, the question I'll direct to you. How will this new structure cascade its impact down to all members at the chapter network?
Great question. Yeah, thanks. I can, Erin Poor, our chapters committee chair, can probably add to what I'm going to say, but my response is that the chapters are really the DNA of SCB. It's the members rallying around local issues to enhance what SCB does on the ground. So it's the chapters like the Malaysia chapter holding mini conferences and representing SCB at the Asian Parks Congress, which happened earlier this year. It's the New Zealand chapter doing beach cleanups and engaging with the community and addressing issues that are relevant to conservation in the North Island and the South Island of New Zealand. It's the Thailand chapter that is getting together conservation scientists who work on carnival conservation, getting them together into a room to talk about issues. So SCB at the chapter level is where it's all at. And that's why we want members to recognize that chapters are really the vehicle for making change and for enacting our mission and our vision. So we want to support the chapters, and the chapters are going to have dedicated support from being nurtured by regional sections. So instead of having everything coming from a central office in DC, the support is going to come from within the region. So the chapters in Asia will be supported by Asia section with resources to do that. Africa section will be supporting the chapters in Africa. And in each of the regions, the section will be the group that nurtures and supports those local groups and helps them to do their work. So this is very important to realize, and this is a part of the new model that is really exciting. I hope that answers your question. And Erin may have additional things to add to that.
No, I think you said it really well, Tony. Chapters are our lifeblood and how we as a society enact our mission through organized events with chapters and engaging membership and engaging potential new members as well through students and outreach to high schools and young students as well.
All right, thanks. So I guess we're wrapping up this session here on the Q&A. The comment that was submitted is really about how is SCB making itself accessible to non-English speaking populations of the world. Have we given any thought to expanding our access to non-English newsletters, websites, webinars, things like that? Tony, if you want to address that.
Yeah, so one of the things that we did recently, or a couple of years ago, is we held our Asia regional conference in the Kyrgyz Republic, and we made it a bilingual congress. So we held it in English and in Russian language, and we had sessions in both languages, and we had interpretation going from English to Russian and from Russian into English. And we can do that in other parts of the world. So in Latin America, we can be holding, well, I think we already do hold our Congress in Spanish language, but in other parts of the world where we have languages that are the operating languages, for example, in Central Africa, we can be operating in French. We can be holding congresses, conferences, workshops, activities in French. We can operationalize our diversity and equity and inclusion by representing all of the language groups. And there's very simple ways that we can do that. Now, some of our chapters and groups may already just be operating in a local language. So for example, in PNG, Tok Pisin is the language, is the operational language. And we've got a membership of 10 really dedicated conservation practitioners led by John Lamaris. And that chapter, when they meet, it's all in local language. They operate in Tok Pisin. I don't think English is spoken much at all. So yeah, we're already doing that, but we need to recognize that globally, that language is the decision of the local group. So however you want to communicate, you can do that. And you know, we'll be planning activities in the future. We're planning to have, for example, a mini conference in PNG to rally our Oceanian members from places that are underrepresented. So for example, Fiji, the Pacific Islands, South Pacific especially, and Melanesia, Solomon Islands, and PNG. When we hold that conference, it'll probably be in English, but we may have activities that are done in local languages.
Okay.
So there's some examples. Yeah.
Great. Okay. I think we have just maybe one more question here in one comment. The first question is it okay if chapters can invite key leaders of SCB to give presentations to members directly? The answer to that question is yes. Our board is always welcome or always willing to meet chapters and give presentations about the society. So the answer is yes. If you reach out to SCB, we can make that happen for you. The other question, I think Ed Hind and maybe Tony can talk about this, but it's about volunteerism in SCB and potential volunteerism fatigue and how to incentivize volunteerism with SCB. Ed, you talked about it a little bit here in the chat, but maybe you could speak on it. We've talked about it in the program council, but how do we address this issue of volunteer fatigue in a volunteer-led society?
Yeah, I guess there's probably a couple of things driving difficulties with volunteerism now. I think, you know, one has been the pandemic and the strains that has put on people's time and new ways of working. But I think Tony talked about earlier about things like, you know, decolonizing conservation and stuff, and like, you know, the way we expect people to take part in conservation, like, you know, it's broader discussions here, but you know, people are obviously putting work into this, and like, you know, we're all, that work, I think, to some extent deserves reward and stuff, and like, you know, we can't just expect people to keep volunteering going forward, although we hopefully that still will play a role. But I mean, one thing we've done within the marine section is we have, you know, for people who want to run for our board, for instance, who are, you know, we've always used the benchmark to date, and I'm happy to review this, but we've always used the benchmark to date of I think the PhD, the value of the average like biology PhD salary in the United States. Obviously that's where SCB is headquartered. But, you know, if people earn that or up to that amount, we've been happy to support their membership if they want to run for our board. You know, and we, you know, one of the things we do offer to board members is, you know, we do subsidize and hopefully fully subsidize travel to conferences where their institutions are unable to support their attendance at conferences, which hopefully is an incentive. But we are still struggling to recruit board members where we haven't struggled in the past. So I think it's a really important thing once the society has hopefully restructured, is that everyone involved in leadership positions thinks again about how, you know, sustaining the society is about having people involved, and especially, you know, people who give a lot of their time. Like we need those people, and so I think we do need to review how we attract more people like that and keep them involved. It's a struggle to find new people, and to be honest, I have struggled myself to stay involved the last few years. It's been a very challenging time, as we all know. And yeah, if we're going to have this new structure, we need people to volunteer. So very happy to keep working with people on that.
All right, thank you, Ed. Okay, I think that kind of wraps up this portion of go ahead, Tony.
I was just going to say that we have some elections coming up for some of the groups, and one of the roles that we have opening up is a role for the Asia section. And, you know, the Asia section has been active for many, many years. But this year, our Asia board is turning over. And so if any of you are interested in running for positions on the section board, the Asia section board, the announcement, I think, Nate, is going out either this month or next month.
Very, very soon, yes. Mhm.
Yep. And the election is going to happen hopefully within the next month or two. Yeah.
Right, that's correct.
And so please look out for that, because we'd love to have anyone who's in the Asia region or people who work in Asia who have an affiliation for Asia to run for the board. And we need people to run for all of the positions. And it'd be great to have your volunteerism. And so please step forward if you're interested in that.
Okay. All right. I think that's the end of the Q&A portion. Tony, do you want to introduce Jen? And Jen is going to give the financial presentation.
Yeah, and just before we do that, I just wanted to tell you that all of the board is completely accessible to answer your questions about the structure, restructure the Vision 2026 and how our society is changing. So please do contact us. And I'm just going to pop in my email into the chat here. So please, anyone who hasn't had their question answered or answered completely, happy to write back to you, and happy to copy in other members of the board who may be able to respond to your questions. So thanks very much.
Great.
And we are going to now move on to the next part of our meeting, which is I'd like to introduce Jen, who's going to give Jen Thornhill, who is our treasurer, who's going to deliver the finance report. Jen, over to you.
Hello. Let's see. Let me get my presentation up here. I think it should be on the screen. All right. Okay. All right, so my presentation today is going to mostly focus on the Society's 2021 finances. This is going to cover the period of January 1st through December 31st of 2021. So this information might seem a bit outdated as we're about to head into 2023. But these are the numbers that are historically presented at our annual SCB members meeting. The reason for this is that these are our most current audited financials. SCB's fiscal year ends on December 31st, so we don't have any more recent numbers than the final 2021 numbers that have been audited. So I'm going to start with a little bit of context. I'll present about the 2021 audited financials, and then I'll briefly discuss the status of our board designated reserves. And then I'll conclude with some very brief comments about 2022's finances. And then there's going to be an opportunity again for another Q&A session at the end of the meeting. Before I jump into this, I just want to say thank you to the SCB staff, in particular Warren Sander and Miriam Fernandez, who handle all the finances on a day-to-day basis. And I also want to say thank you to Steve Humphreys, who helps us to manage our investments and has been doing so for many years. All right, so to start, this slide just gives you kind of a general idea of the major sources of revenue for SCB. So the largest sources of revenue are typically our conferences, journals, memberships, our fellowships, grants, and donors. This is what sustains the society and allows us to focus on our mission. What I'm showing you here is a bunch of numbers. This is our 2021 audited statement of activities, which shows the society's actual revenue, expenses, and net assets for 2021. So in 2021, for the 5th consecutive year, SCB engaged Cherry Bekaert LLP, which ranks among the largest accounting firms in the United States. They were engaged to conduct our annual independent audit. SCB received a clean audit with the audit report saying, quote, "In our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the society." So I'm going to quickly talk through some of these numbers here. So in 2021, SCB's total non-restricted revenue was $3,063,975. The largest sources of revenue were funds for the Smith Fellows postdoctoral program, profit sharing, publications, and return on investments. Other sources of revenue included membership and outreach, ICCB, and then contributions and grants. In 2021, SCB was also the recipient of a second loan through the Paycheck Protection Program in the amount of $185,749. This is a loan that was made through the U.S. Small Business Administration to help organizations keep their workforce employed during the COVID-19 pandemic. This loan had a 1% interest rate, but borrowers were able to apply for forgiveness, which SCB did. And then on December 15th of 2021, SCB was granted forgiveness for the entire loan plus the amount of interest. Moving on to expenses, in 2021, SCB total expenses were $2,410,151. The largest expenses were the Smith Fellows Program, publications, membership and outreach, and then supporting services, which includes the costs that are associated with the executive office, governance, and development. Overall, SCB's net income in 2021 was $653,824. Overall, SCB's total assets decreased from 5.7 million to 5 million in 2021. This is primarily due to the standard release of assets from the Cedar Tree Foundation for the Smith Fellows Program. So like 2020, 2021 was kind of an unpredictable and unusual year. The global pandemic really changed the way that the society operated through this year. But overall, SCB's actual expenses and revenue performed favorably when compared with our budget for the year. There's a few main reasons behind this. The first is that revenue from publications was greater than our budget projections. Revenue from membership also outperformed budgeted projections. And then finally, ICCB netted a modest profit, and the society saved some expenses by conducting a virtual meeting rather than in person. This slide shows the historic values of the SCB Board Designated Reserve Funds. The Board Designated Reserve, or BDR, was created in 1987 to enhance the financial security of the society. The BDR principal increased from $1,584,083 to $1,979,880. This includes a deposit of $125,000 and no disbursements. So overall, during 2021, the BDR had a life of fund total return of $270,797, or 17.1% of the prior year-end value of stocks, bonds, and cash. All right, I just want to conclude my report with a brief update about how things look in 2022. So actual performance so far in 2022 tracks favorably against our budget. The forecast to year end places our financial performance in line with our budget allocations for the year. So that's all that I have. Quick, there's going to be an opportunity, as I said, towards the end of the meeting for any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jen. We're going to move on to the publications report, and Ellen Main is going to present that report. Ellen, over to you.
I'm here. I hope you don't mind. I don't use my screen on my video because I'm having a little problem with connection. Let's see if I can share.
I'll share it for you, Ellen. That's okay.
All right. Thank you, Nate.
Okay.
So what's happening at Conservation Biology? In 2021, we stayed steady at about 800 submissions. We would like this number to go up and think that it should be going up, and we're thinking about reasons why it might not be. We published 176 articles, and our acceptance rate was 21%, so we are still highly selective. 73% of eligible articles are published online in a median of 9 days after acceptance. In 2022, our impact factor increased to 7.5. And our cited half-life is greater than 13, and this means that in the literature, half of the citations to conservation biology are over 13 years old. And we think that this speaks to our the longevity and the quality of the papers that we are publishing and importance. Currently, we have 89 handling editors from 23 countries. What's changing? We are going to increase our word limits in 2023. We're working on our equity, diversity, and inclusion strategy, which includes targeted handling editor recruitment. That's ongoing. Last year, we published our equity, diversity, and inclusion statement, and that's available on our Wiley site, and it's also included with our author instruction documents. Data source attribution is brand new. In an effort to get authors to think about inclusion of geographically relevant authors in their journal submissions, we are asking at submission for a list of countries where data were collected and for the submitter to confirm that each region is represented in authorship appropriately and to the extent possible. Just this week, we launched our social media ambassador campaign, and ambassadors will be helping amplify the efforts of our social media editor, particularly on Twitter. And we share a social media editor with Conservation Science and Practice. And we have ambassadors from the Africa, Oceania, and Europe section, and ambassadors from the Chapters Committee and the Social Science Working Group. I'll put my email in the chat, and if you would like to participate in this program, that would be great. We certainly would like to see ambassadors from more of the working groups, including in the sections North America and Asia. Some of the special features I'd like to remind members about conservation biology is that we have a hybrid model for publication charges. This model allows us to publish papers by authors who have no funding to cover publication fees. Authors can choose to pay for open access, or if need be, have a waiver of page charges, under which access to the article is via subscription. So essentially, if you have the financial need and you're a member of SCB, you can publish for free in conservation biology. Publication Partners program has been around for a few years. The focus of this program is on authors from developing and non-English speaking regions. When we receive a manuscript that is not publishable, but could be given the right construction, analysis, and emphasis, the editor asks the authors whether they would like to partner with an experienced scientist to develop a revision for resubmission to conservation biology. Open research badges were implemented last year. Badges are awarded for making data and materials available in an open access repository and pre-registering the research design and analyses. So there's 3 separate badges: open research, open materials, and pre-registration. And a little emblem appears on the first page of each article for this. We have 2 special issues in the planning stages right now. The first is Voices in Conservation, and that's about diversifying the participants in conservation. And the second is on wildlife trade. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ellen, for your presentation. It's great to see a vibrant conservation biology, and so impressed with the impact that we continue to have with our conservation biology journal. I'm now going to hand over to Dr. Carolina Mercier, who's our new editor-in-chief of Conservation Science and Practice. And just wanted to thank Mark Schwartz, who was our long-term editor-in-chief of Conservation Science and Practice. He stepped down during the year and he's handed over to Carolina. So Carolina, over to you.
Thank you, Tony. So as Tony mentioned, there was a change in the editor-in-chief. I took over in July. Let me start with the highlights. This year, we've up till the end of November, we had received 388 submissions. The number of submissions has pretty much leveled off relative to last year. I had projected 423 by the end of this year, but I think we're going to surpass that. We're already at least at 420 submissions. We still have 3 more weeks to go. We already published the last issue of the year with a total of 244 articles for the year. Acceptance rate is about 61%. It has held steady for the last couple of years with about 70% acceptance post-review. We had an about 8% increase at least in the diversity of authors, up from 48 countries to 52. And the median turnaround time is about 2 months to first, a little bit over 2 months to first decision and about 5 months to final decision. It slowed down a little bit this year, and I think in part was because we're adjusting to the growth of the journal, but also perhaps because of the change in the editor-in-chief. To adjust for this growth, 2022, the journal had an additional senior associate editor, and we're recruiting a 4th one. I'm also revising the author guidelines. I'm doing a significant revision of the author guidelines to include new policies, for example, policies on the use of technology that track people, also the I statement, etc. So, and also to streamline some of the issues that we've been having with submissions and content review, etc. Also, we are due to join Publons, which is a structure that gives grade to reviewers, and this is an effort to reward reviewers and make it more appealing to them. Sorry, I forgot to say this. To make it more appealing to them to participate in the review process. There has been a little bit of a bottleneck in the last couple of months, in the last few months. Right now, we have 2 special issues in process, one on conservation philanthropy, which is almost pretty much completed the content review, and it will come out as a single package. And right now we're in the process of doing content review for a Pantanal issue. So we're really excited about that. And so in terms of next year, we expect to increase the representation of the Global South and the practitioners in the board of editors and published papers. We also are in the process of joining and strengthening the Publication Partners Program of Conservation Biology to provide more support to authors from the Global South. I'm also starting conversations with Ed Gallo and other people to improve the outreach of the journal via translated or translatable abstracts. Right now, we only publish abstracts in English. I'm also in the process of streamlining and formalizing some components of the review process to increase its efficiency and the transparency. And I'm working on compiling an editor manual to make any transitions easier. I'm also working to increase the board of editors by about 50%. And so I put in my address there in case somebody wishes to volunteer or wishes to nominate people for candidates for the board of editors. I think we're going to try to go to 6 senior associate editors to reduce a little bit the workload of the current ones, which have been major champions, but I think that they're reaching their capacity. And one of the things that I'm hoping for is actually increasing the initial rejection rates for the journal to reduce reviewer and associate handling fatigue because it can get sometimes hard to find enough reviewers. So those are sort of the short term for the next year goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolina, and thanks very much for joining us as editor-in-chief and continuing our great engagement through this journal and increasing the access and inclusion to our members and to conservation practitioners who want to publish in our journal. So thanks very much to all of the editors for their work and editorial boards for the great work that you're doing in making our publications world leaders. So we're going to move on now to chapters, and it's my great pleasure to introduce Chair of our Chapters Committee, Erin Poor, who's going to make the next presentation. Erin, over to you.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you everybody for staying on. I know we're running a little bit behind in our agenda, so I can be quick here, especially since we already talked some about chapters. But chapters are really the lifeblood of SCB and how we enact our mission. They're groups of assembled members based on shared region, location, university, or other sort of geographic tie-in. And they include students, professors, conservation practitioners, and really anyone who is interested in conservation activities and enacting SCB's mission. Oh, sorry about that. As of right now, this year, we have about 33 registered official chapters. There could be some more chapters out there that have not registered, and I know we have some red tape right now about membership and registration that some folks find hard. Other chapters just miss the deadline. Some chapters go dormant once in a while, just based on individuals and volunteers in that region or at that location. We have a number of chapters in North America section, but we have chapters across the globe as well. And we're really interested in expanding our chapter reach and engagement throughout the rest of the world. So if you're on the call, you're not a member of a chapter and you'd like to become engaged, please reach out to me or Nate Spillman and we can help you establish a chapter and become active. Excuse me. Our chapters are engaged in various on-the-ground activities. We have the Madagascar chapter here as a great example. They've received some funding from our chapters committee over the past couple of years, and they've engaged in a reforestation project in Eastern Madagascar. They've organized online workshops for high school students trying to engage the future of SCB, and they've participated in training. So there's really a large variety of activities that chapters can participate in and organize around, including training, shared interest activities like hikes, or natural history identification workshops. And then they can participate in service activities as well, like the outreach to high school students. Another example is the Western Pennsylvania chapter. They participated in an amphibian migration night hike. So just, interest of the members to go out and do something fun together, share our passion of the natural world together. They also engaged in some volunteer activities to help better the community, which is always great to see. And then finally, we have our University of Idaho chapter here that participated in some activities recently. They did gardening projects, kestrel monitoring projects, and then they engage often in informal activities as well. And to fund some of these activities, chapters are encouraged to apply twice a year to the Soule Saving Species Chapter Activity Grant Program. We give out 4 grants per year of up to $750. And the funding really varies based on what the chapter committee has available that year. So we like to give out 2, but we may be able to grant more than 2 depending on our funding situation in any particular year. And we currently have a call out. So if you are a member of a chapter, make sure that your chapter leadership knows about this opportunity, and we're going to be working to distribute this information around our chapters as well. We have a call out right now to apply by December 31st, and this will be for activities that took place from June until the end of this year to have those activities funded. We're looking to fund at least 2 2 different chapter activities throughout the world, and we give preference to those chapters that have not been recently funded. So if you haven't heard of this grant before, if you have not received funding before, I encourage you, please apply. We can fund all different types of activities. We can fund supplies. And I know in the past we've had some issues around, you know, having to be reimbursed for this funding, but we found a way. We've worked with global services to try to streamline this process and make it easier for chapters globally to receive this funding. And please look for the call. We do this twice a year. We put out a call at the end of the year and then mid-year as well. So please keep your eyes out if you're a chapter leader for this great opportunity. And from there, I will turn it over to Renee if she's still on the call. She's a chapter leader for Tampa, the Tampa, Florida chapter, to talk more specifically about their chapter's activities.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to share my screen really quickly. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Renee, and the Tampa Bay chapter is actually housed on the University of Tampa campus. I'm currently a senior there, and we have a great board working really hard. So I'm just going to talk briefly about what we do there in Tampa. So we are actually part of a community called Live Well UT, and it acts as an umbrella for about 23 other initiatives. These organizations are committed to educating students on spirituality, finance, mental and physical health, and sustainability. So we are part of the sustainability group, and they really just help us in the day-to-day organization of registering our events on campus, funding for any small things we may need, and social media promotion as well, which has been really helpful over the last few years. So Tampa at a glance, we try to do a general meeting about once a month and a more themed program once a month as well. So our general meetings, we really highlight volunteer opportunities in the community in Tampa Bay, any sustainability initiatives that are happening on campus, any conservation current events that are happening. We like to do this listening to a podcast thing as well, and also an activity. Something that's really important to draw people in is having like a giveaway, some kind of interactive activity. So that's been our really main crucial thing, is finding something to get people to come. Our themed meetings this year so far has been very successful. We usually do about 20 to 30 minutes of an educational program, and then there's usually a food or activity component to that as well. We also do about 1 to 2 beach cleanups every semester. There are other sustainability initiatives on campus, and we often partner with them to kind of join a bigger group in as well. And we also do tabling on campus. The picture I have there is an example of something that we have where we set up a table and have information about something. The one in the picture is about pollinator preservation. We usually have an infographic that people can scan and something to give away. This example, we were giving away flowers. And so here are just highlights of our flyers for the events that we have done. These are our educational programs that we've done. So the first one about sloth conservation was partnered with Live Well with a huge tabling event. We had about probably 200 people stop by, hear a spiel about sloths, kind of a sloth 101, as well as sloth conservation efforts that are happening globally. And we did a sponge painting activity, which people really loved. One of our bigger events this semester were cupcake decorating. So that actually brought in about 50 people. Half of them were not SCB members, so it was really great to have some new faces. They came for the cupcakes, but they did receive a lot of information about owls that night, so that was really fun. We also did stuff about bat conservation. That was also a collaboration with another group as well. We have also collaborated with Save the Manatee Club, which is a really large organization working with manatee conservation in the area. They came in and did a great presentation, had lots of educational giveaways and flyers, things of that sort. We also did a monarch butterfly, Dia de los Muertos celebration. We had lots of food. It was a really great time. And I also have a flyer from our beach cleanup that we had a few months ago as well. And so for the coming year, we do have a lot of larger goals, including a biology-focused career fair on campus. The university does provide a lot of career services. However, I personally feel that they're lacking in the biology department. So a biology-centered career fair is something we really want to focus on. Overall, more networking opportunities. I feel like as students, we're not really taking advantage of the resources that SCB provides, like the job boards and just connecting with conservationists around the world. So I'd really like to implement more networking into our chapter, and overall just more collaboration as well. And one really big one, I think, is just connecting with the greater Tampa Bay community. We are kind of in the bubble on campus, but I do think it'd be really great to connect with folks outside of it. There are a lot of people in Tampa Bay, and I think they could contribute greatly to our chapter and have a lot of ideas of how to continue SCB in Tampa. And that is all I have. If you have any further questions, please email me. These are the best ways to contact me.
Great. Thank you so much, Renee. It's excellent to see all of that work that the Tampa Bay chapter has been putting in. Next, we have Fitri from the Malaysia chapter. Fitri, are you still here? We'd love to hear about the work that your chapter has been doing.
Hi, Irene. Yes, I am. Let me set up my webcam real quick. All right. Thank you very much, Irene. Good morning. My name is Fitri. I'm from SCB Malaysia. So together with us, we have I think all 5 members of us in the Pro-Tem Committee for SCB Malaysia. I'm Vice President 1. We are led by Dr. Wong Ipin, which is the President. Our Treasurer is Azam. Here is our Secretary in the picture, Kushal, and also Vice President 2, Yanji. So we actually received the Sole Saving Species Grant Activity Program. And then actually, if I can just bring you a bit back in reverse to what led us to this APC side event program, was that we had an outreach program with Alex, which is I think SCB Asia representative at that time. So we will. So this I think wants to show that as a growing SCB members or a new members, we really didn't know what to do, and we had to engage people from Asia chapter, and we did. So during that time, we had maybe 1 or 2 meetings discussing about what to do. So then Alex was just saying, we're going to have this APC Congress coming in Malaysia. Then we're like, oh, then we had that information. So then we know what we want to do, but we don't have the fund to do so. So that was, I think, where the Sole Saving Species grant came about. And we applied for a side event that was approved by the event provider, which was the IUCN Congress. And then because of that, some of the budget was not able to be covered by the Sole Saving chapter grant. We also applied additional grant from the Asia chapter. So thanks Vivek again for approving that. So I think this example of we want to do something, but we don't have money to do it. And having the right combination of people and idea and money, of course, I think led to the successful combination of this SCB Malaysia chapter Second Asia Park Congress side event program. So, sorry, that's my daughter in the background. So these were the total turn up that came to the APC Congress. So we had some VIP members who attended as well. Dato something that came. So we had all range of participants from board member of big NGOs until rangers and also students. So that was very exciting. And this all came about after the unfolding of COVID-19. So Malaysia, we have the main island part and also the Borneo part. So we have been disconnected because of COVID. And this is a very good opportunity, the first opportunity for us to actually metamorphosize, so to say, from COVID. And we get to see a lot of members from Malaysia, especially in Sabah. And part of it was also to elect Sabah committee to actually lead program in Borneo. All right. So here we also had the photo opportunity with Justine also from Malaysia, SCB, I think secretary, and together with some key role members in conservation in Malaysia. In the middle here is IUCN Regional Chair on Governance, Prof. Arman, and some important ecology and tiger people as well in the pictures. All right. So to sum up, there were 30 attendees that came to the side event because we had concurrent session. So at the same time, Tony was also having a session. So I suspect Tony took a lot of our participants. But we managed still to get 10 new memberships for SCB Malaysia chapter, and we also encouraged membership in SCB Global, as Justin was also there, together with Alex, telling about the new Vision 2026. So we will all brief quite briefly on the agenda, and we are looking forward for that, and it looks very promising as well. And then we also have a new Sabah election in Borneo. So with that, I would like to thank some of the name that now I have face to put into. I think first time meeting Erin, and then Kit, Miriam, Misha Jackson, and Claire. All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Tony, I'll hand it back over to you. I think we're wrapping up.
Yeah, great. Thanks to Malaysia chapter and Tampa chapter for presenting the great work that you do, and thank you for engaging with conservationists in the places where you're working. And thank you, Erin, for chairing the committee this year and for engaging all of these groups. I know it's a huge amount of work to do, but chapters are really where it's at. And so I really hope that we're going to have increasingly more engagement at the chapter level from our members, and that we'll be able to support chapters increasingly through our new business model. So thank you everyone for joining our 2022 members meeting. And I would like to probably finish up in the next 2 to 3 minutes. But before I do, I'm going to open for general questions. If any of you have questions for anybody, please raise them now, type them into the chat or raise your hand and we'll answer them. And we'll try to finish up in the next 3 minutes. And just to let you know, if anyone would like to ask longer questions or questions that might involve a separate discussion, we're happy to do that. So please just contact us, message us. I sent you my email, and we'll arrange a time to meet you. We want to make sure that you understand that we're completely accessible. Okay, great. All right, well, it looks like we may have run out of energy for questions, which is just totally fine. So I'd like to thank everyone for the presentations, for the great overview from all of our groups and from our committees. I'd like to thank the board and the staff And I'd like to thank all of you, most importantly, the members, for what you do. And moving into 2023, we have an exciting next step in our transition. And just to remind you, January and February, please look in your email box for a message about the bylaws. We want you to comment, and we want to receive feedback from you about these bylaws so that we can then move ahead and implement the new bylaws for our restructured society. So thanks everyone for participation. And
Tony, we have one question that came in, or a hand raised from Harrison, who I believe is
great
conservation meeting right now. Harrison.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I'm sorry I came in late. I actually had a session that I was moderating at the biodiversity conference that is taking place here in Montreal in Canada. So I was very thrilled with to hear the exciting work that the different chapters are doing. I think it will be, Emily, it will be good for us to have an understanding on what the different chapters are doing, who are those involved, so that, because I've just discovered that there is a chapter in Cameroon. I am a board member of the working group for on the religious working group, but I'm not aware of the chapter in Cameroon. So I think it would be nice to have this connect such that we don't work in silos. To add to that, I just wanted to find out, we are now in the biodiversity conference here in Montreal. I don't know if there are some members in our group that are participating, and if that's the case, it will be of interest for me to have some in-person or personal contacts with them, because we've always been meeting online. So thank you. That was just my contribution.
Thank you, Harrison, and thanks for your participation in the meetings in Montreal. And just to let you know that our chapters committee is really the contact point for finding out where other chapter members are working. And so please do contact Erin as the chairs of the chapters committee, and she will help put you in touch with the members of our chapters in Cameroon. Great. So thanks very much. I don't want to keep you too long because we're out of time and we've gone over quite a bit of time with our meeting. But thanks very much, everyone, for joining our members meeting. I thought it was great to see you all, and hopefully we'll be seeing many of you in person in Kigali from the 23rd to 26th of July, where we're going to hold our ICCB next year. So looking forward to meeting some of you there, and also looking forward to meeting members of sections and chapters next year as you start to hold in-person congresses and conferences and trainings and workshops. Thank you all for the great work that you do around the world, and looking forward to a stronger and a more amazing society for conservation biology in 2023. So with that, I'm going to close the meeting and say good night to you all. Good morning, good evening. See you next time. Thank you very much. Bye now.